very small group, and it's going to be a very formal presentation. My name is Don Lodge, and I am a products are being developed. Are taking law schools for students are kept in the loop. I had said just a minute ago, for an informal presentation this afternoon, all group. Kind of to set the room map. Pretty brief agenda, pretty brief. Relatively new enhancement. Live demonstration. Wireless network is up and running. Obviously, have an opportunity for wrap up and questions, and feel free. There are some materials, some. We're going to be covering 6 seen in the past. These are all been released in this past academic year. So some of these you may have your account representative or through your library. Certainly. Perfect, thanks. Get mic'd up here real quick. Put that on there for me. But the 6 enhancements that we're going to talk about are listed up on the screen. We're going to talk about retrieve all and more like this head note. We're also going to be talking about some history enhancements that have been added to LexisNexis, copy with Cite, and some advantages of copy with Cite on Lexis. Talk a little bit about some enhancements to Shepard, specifically concentrating on our batch print submission ability. And then email as an attachment, some of the enhancements that were made to that delivery mechanism. And then we're going to wrap it up with something that released a few days ago, which is our new focus bar. And we'll talk about that in just a second. First of all, retrieve all head notes. You might have referred or heard of these as retrieve all, more like this head note, kind of in unison. They're 2 separate products, but they all do generate around the idea of a LexisNexis head note, one within the Search Advisor classification system on Lexis, and the other just as an appendices or an appendix or actually an add-on to cases. A couple of things about the LexisNexis head notes, if you're not necessarily familiar with those. Those are created by attorney editors at Lexis, and they draw the head notes directly from the language of the court. So there's not any editorial, I guess you would say, any editorial analysis done to the head notes. It matches with the language of the court as close as possible. But specifically with retrieve all head notes, what it does is it allows the retrieval of all case law opinions under a particular Search Advisor topic. If you're familiar with our Search Advisor classification system, we classify different areas of law within our classification system, and you can actually run a search based upon the Search Advisor classification system. Not only will it find opinions. No, CiteIt is a citation product on our competitor West. This would be similar to key numbers. So not only will you be able to find it under a search advisor topic as far as those opinions, but you can also find them in both published and unpublished decisions. That's a difference between the head notes or the head notes and the key number system on our competitor. Those are only available on published decisions. This particular product is available on both. And with Retrieve All head notes, we also add the ability to sort your answer set or sort the opinions by the way you do it normally, by date or court end date based on court of highest jurisdiction first. Or we also have it available to be sorted by frequently cited and most in-depth discussion. And I'll go in and show you those particular aspects right now. Basically, I'm already signed into LexisNexis. Basically, I'm at the search screen. Hopefully, you have had some familiarity with Lexis, and you see a screen that does not look that foreign to you. What I want to do, though, is set up a scenario in which we've got a labor and employment issue dealing with discrimination in remedies. And I'll just set that up just as an aside. But what I want to do is I'm going to actually go into our search advisor classification system, and I want to draw your attention to the different areas of law that are referred. Everything from administrative law, scrolling down, obviously, all the way down into securities tax, torts, transportations, workers' compensation, and the like. All of these particular areas of law are constantly evolving. They are not tied to any historical system. There's no master servant in Search Advisor. We have a cyberspace Search Advisor topic under communication law. So what I'm trying to get to is that this is something that is changeable, it's adaptable, and it's flexible. And in the scenario that we're talking, yes, ma'am.
I'm looking at your insurance law, and there's three subtitles under that.
Yes?
But I'm assuming there are more. If I click on insurance, would I then see a longer list?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. Again, if anyone has questions, please feel free to interject, and I'll do my best to answer them. But in our particular situation, we're specifically dealing with labor and employment and the idea of discrimination and also specifically referring to remedies. So if I were to go into Search Advisor, I could simply search for that under the Find a Legal Topic, and I could get there that way as well. Or I could use basically a directory-based system. I'm just, for the sake of today's presentation, going to do that today. I'm going to go into discrimination. And then I'm also going to go over, and I want to talk specifically about age discrimination specifically getting down into remedies. Drawing your attention to the top of the screen, basically it gives you a breadcrumb trail of where you've been within the Search Advisor classification into labor, employment, discrimination, age discrimination, now we're at remedies. Basically where we are now is we're able to select a jurisdiction and run a search, and what it's going to go ahead and do is we're able to run a search on that, or specifically with Retrieve All, if I'm in the situation where I'm not relatively unfamiliar with that particular area of law, I could simply go to Retrieve All Head Notes and cases on topic, which we're dealing in this case with age discrimination and remedies. All I have to do is click Go, but first it tells me I have to pick a jurisdiction. So of course I'm going to go and I'll pick federal cases that are labor employment related, clicking Go. What it's going to go down now and do is it's going to look for all the head notes, the LexisNexis head notes that I referred to as earlier, that relate to labor and employment area of law with age discrimination and also dealing with remedies. What is retrieved for me is 1,469 cases that contain those head notes of relevance. If you take a look at this, we're discriminating, or we're finding head notes, and what I've actually displayed for you, it's come back in what's called a digest view. This is essentially an additional view format that is available in Retrieve All and more like this head note, and I'll talk about that in a second. But what you have the ability to go and see the cite list of these cases, also see them in quick, full, and custom. But the digest view essentially is allowing you to see the cases with just the head notes appearing. And you'll see that these head notes are relative to the particular topic at hand. Point out again the way in which we can sort these cases. Remember how we talked about before the ability to sort by court by jurisdiction, court of highest jurisdiction first? But I can also sort them by frequently cited. By doing this, what I'm going to end up doing is I will be taking the 1,469 cases and finding those cases that require and are essentially frequently cited requires that the identifying have how many times each case is cited by the other cases in your search result. What I'm essentially going to do is take that 1,469 searches or cases, and I'm going to do a frequently cited of which ones have cited these cases the most in that particular clump of cases. Make sense? No? Correct. And I might be able to be pointed out a little bit easier when I run the search. What's going to come up, you'll see in just a second. Right, Jeff? Is now you still have 1,469 cases, but what this has done is it's resorted the list of 1,469 cases. Instead of having them listed by date, or instead of having them listed by court of highest jurisdiction first, what we've done is we've essentially resorted them by the cases that refer the most to each other. Meaning, in this particular situation, this particular case, the Division of Lowe's Theaters versus Pons, was cited 123 times in the 1,469 cases. So theoretically, with this particular search advisor topic classification, this should be like mostly the most relevant case on that particular area of law. So essentially what we've done is we've provided an additional sorting mechanism in the retrieve all answer set that's not available in a regular full text search.
And this enables you to do it by particular headnotes rather than by the case.
Correct. Correct.
You can sort it by most frequently cited. Possible case out there.
I'm not sure I understand the question. I'm sorry. If you don't do a full text search,
You get a list of cases, and you want to sort them by most frequently cited.
that is only available on Lexis by retrieve all or more like this head note. The way you can sort cases on LexisNexis with a full text search is by court, and date, or by date. So
Yes, maybe does Westlaw then have a feature that
but it's again,
every case out there might have cited it for a different?
it's correct, but they're also using their key number and head note system as well. It's not based on a full text search. You're more than welcome. So essentially getting back to where I wanted to go, it's pretty simple to do. If I wanted to get back to my regular list, I would just resort this. You'll notice I'm not changing the number of cases that are appearing. We're still going to have 1,469 cases. But again, the sorting is different. The first case is not the Lowe's case anymore. It's now Commissioner versus Schuyler. A couple of things, too, about this is not only will LexisNexis retrieve cases that have head notes that are referring or germane to this particular topic, but you'll notice in the fourth case, it's retrieved a case that doesn't even have head notes. And this is my example of where it doesn't have to be a published or an unpublished decision, and it's not referred to, not limited to that particular head note. It will take the text of that head note because it is being drawn from the court and not an editorially created head note. It will be able to be searched upon in the full text of decisions. This example here talks about the age discrimination in this particular federal statute and remedies, but you'll notice there aren't any head notes in this case. So that's a benefit of the retrieve all feature, is it will not only search cases that have head notes, but it will also retrieve opinions that may not have head notes, but have language in the opinion that is germane to the issue. So basically, what we've shown is if I were only interested in cases that have head notes, I could simply say, just show me cases that have head notes only. I'm not interested in those cases that may just have text that is relevant or basically pertinent to that particular topic. I just want to search by head notes. Okay? Another enhancement that we've added with the retrieve all feature is something called in-depth discussion. I like to basically the terminology that I like to use for this feature is I like to call this kind of a treatise case. These are treatise cases. These are essentially up to 15 of the top cases on that particular search advisor topic classification. So in this instance, what this will do is it will actually retrieve up to 15 discussion cases on this topic. And this is most relevant, I think, for either students, faculty member, or practitioners who are in a search advisor area of law or an area of law that they're not necessarily familiar with all the nooks and crannies, but they can get essentially a real quick down and dirty list of discussion cases that actually are discussing this particular area of law. So they can do a real quick survey of that, and this is a relatively easy feature to use. It's called in-depth discussion, and it uses a complicated combination of an algorithm as well as search advisor syntax to retrieve these up to 15 cases that are going to be most relevant on that particular topic. And to get back, all I have to do is click return or retrieve all head notes, and I'm back to where I was. Basically, retrieve all head notes, like I said, can also be used not only through the search advisor classification system by retrieving documents in that manner, but there is also the ability to retrieve the documents after a full text search. And if I could show you how to do that real quickly, if I were to go into search, and I were to go into, let's say, labor cases, and I were to put in and no, you do not. Terms of art, you don't need to put, terms of art are actually, it's literal on Lexis. You can put them in there if you want, but it's not required. I've retrieved 100 cases on this particular topic. But remember when we retrieved cases in this topic using the search advisor classification system, I went in and just used search advisor. But if you notice here, where it says labor, employment, discrimination, age discrimination, other laws, there's a little icon here. It says retrieve all. Essentially, you have the ability to use that tool I just showed you, retrieve all head notes under a search advisor topic, after doing a full text search, as well as being able to do it using the search advisor classification system. So if I were to go in and do that, I would essentially do the retrieve all search. It would ask me to pick a jurisdiction like I had done before. It would go out and run that search and retrieve cases based on that search advisor topic classification. However, the way I've gotten to that is different. I've gotten that from the answer set of a full text search as opposed to going into the search advisor classification system. The other thing I want to talk to you about that's related to retrieve all is the more like this head note feature. If, for instance, I am doing research, I come across a head note that is absolutely right on point to the issue that I'm researching, we have a feature now that's added to LexisNexis called more like this head note. And essentially, if I would go through here and I read this particular head note and I see this is on all fours, this is exactly, I really wish I could get more cases like this one, specifically relating to this particular head note. I could click more like this head note. A jurisdiction selection box pops up. I can either run it in the same jurisdiction or the same authority that I had my original answer set, or I could pick where I wanted to actually run this search. If I wanted to stay where I am, it indicates that I'm in the original source. I simply click search, and what it's going to do is it's going to actually run a search based upon that head note, and it's going to retrieve cases with any reference to that particular head note language. And you'll see what's going to happen when it comes up. They're similar in that, however, if you could do the same thing. The difference is in the actual way you can actually display the answer set, and I'll talk to that in just a second. It's the way you can rank them. Because when you do a more like this search, you don't have the capability of ranking them by the most frequently cited cases, and we'll talk about that in a second. What are we doing, Jeff?
It's thinking.
It's thinking. And it's done thinking. Basically, it's going out and it's using a search of the particular head note, and it's coming back and it's giving me 100 cases that are dealing with this. And specifically, to get to your question, again, I'm in a digest view, and if you were to do a full text search on Lexis without utilizing retrieve all or without utilizing more like this head note, you would not get a digest view. We essentially are creating for you a virtual digest by using these two features. This differs a little bit from retrieve all is that we also have closest match as opposed to frequently cited. And this is a statistical ranking based on a complicated logarithm that, again, will put the cases and display those cases, retrieve those cases, if you will, by the closest match based on that head note that you entered in. So as you can see, if you were to go up and if we were in a regular answer set and you had more like this text, you could click on that, but you're not going to get this particular sort of sorting capability. To get back out of this, pretty simple to do. If I were to go and, a closest match, I could go, and you'll notice too that you're only displaying the actual head notes. You're not displaying the full text of the decision. If, however, you wanted to get into the head note or into the text of the opinion where this head note is actually being generated, if you simply click on the head note, it's actually going to bring you down into the text of the opinion where that head note appears. The ability to navigate throughout the document is also easily done by simply clicking on the up arrows, and that will bring you back up to the next one. That will bring you back down, etc. Certainly. Okay. They are. No, that's correct. These are actually head notes that are generated in LexisNexis head notes. These are not.
So that case may have generated, there may be 4 up there that deal with the topic you're interested in, but it may be 5 altogether.
Correct.
That deal with other things.
Correct.
And it just numbers them
Sequentially.
sequentially for this purpose.
For this case, yes.
If you went back into the case, 25 head notes, head note number 1 here might be.
Would not refer to. They are totally dissimilar in other cases. Correct. Correct. And that allows us, because the flexibility, that gives us the flexibility of not locking our head note system into some type of already defined classification. These are basically flexible and adaptable to different areas of law.
But you just have to be careful about that. If you were to print out the 1, 2, 3, 4, and then print out the case, you got
For in this case, you could, but not in another case. Like if I went to number 2, this particular head note here, if I could find one, head note 3 here may not match up to head note 3 in the previous case. Oh, I see. Yes. It will be the same head note in that case.
the same text.
Correct.
The same number.
That could very well be.
Because number 25 might be the subject you're interested in, and it'll be listed as the only one that's relevant.
That is correct. That is correct. I apologize, I didn't understand the question.
Sorry, I didn't make it clear.
Nope, you did. I just didn't catch it. But that's basically retrieve all, more like this head note. 2 enhancements that were added within this last academic year. Again, some enhancements that we feel are beneficial both to students, to faculty, as well as practitioners. What I want to show next, after more like this head note, is history enhancements. We made some significant advancements in our history feature. Essentially, this is the ability for you to either go back, if you're interrupted, for instance, a phone call, you can go back in and pick up where you left off. Or we also have and that's called today's results. We also have something called archival results, and that goes back 29 additional days. So essentially what we've done is we've doubled the capability in the industry to be able to go back. The previous high had been 14 days. We've doubled that to go back to 30, including the day you run the search. Essentially, you're also able to filter the searches based on if you have a client or a matter number or a project number, and you can also sort it by date, essentially filter all of your activity that you've done on Lexis by those 2 categories. And you're also able to print your history in a viewable print option using your browser print. So what I want to do is just real quickly show you what I'm talking about. It makes it a little bit easier to understand. If I were to simply go into my history, what it's going to do is it's going to give me, it defaults to today's results. And today's results are kept in the history log under today until 2 a.m. of the day you run the search. So essentially, you'll see a list of all the searches that I ran today. A couple of things that you can do within this. You can sort these particular these particular searches, search activities, by client ID or by date. I don't have any client that I've put in here, so if I were to click this, it would resort and allow you to pick if I had client A, client B, client C, client D. I could see all the research activity for today that I've done on that particular client. Or, in this case, all the activity that I've done by date. A couple of other things that are interesting here is that we will actually keep the search itself and the results attached to that search in the today's results. So if I were to simply click on this, I'm going to get back to the same point at which I was, same 100 cases. However, if I were to go back into history and I go to my archive activity, this again goes back 29 additional days, or a total of 30, if you take into consideration the searches that you've run today. If I were to go back here, this is only searching the actual, or only retrieving the actual search. If I wanted to retrieve those, it's going to ask me to rerun it. And this would be essentially a new search. So we are, because of capabilities, you can imagine if we had millions and millions of customers with thousands and thousands of searches, 30 days or more, our system would not be able to archive all of that. We archive the actual search in the archive and have the ability for you to go out back and retrieve that search and run a new search. And if there have been new material or a new authority added, so if you've got 20 answers yesterday, you run it again, there's 24, you'll get that new answer set. Yep, they will be two separate entries. They do indeed. You'll notice that I'll have down here, and I don't know if I have it in anything here today. Yes, I do. There's one with no answer set. It's also kept. There's one with no retrieved answer set. It's there, but obviously you're not going to be able to run it because it hasn't changed. But it will keep all of the searches that you've run. We're also able to set a filter. So for instance, I don't have that many in my I have 19 activities, research activities or research sessions that I've run today. If I had hundreds, for instance, or in double digits, more than 19, I could set a filter so that I could look for a particular range of date or from a date, time period, or a specific date and actually apply that filter. So essentially, you wouldn't have to hunt and peck for anything. You knew you did that research for client A or on that particular research topic sometime during the week of the 15th. I don't remember exactly whether it was a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. I don't remember the exact date, but I can go back and I can filter my answer set or filter my history results and find that actual entry. Okay?
So you
Questions?
said filter this by client.
Absolutely.
Can you print it off so that you can stick it in the client's billing?
You most certainly could by using the browser print option. By using your browser's print, not a LexisNexis printer. Any questions on the history enhancements? Essentially, ability to keep the searches, not only the searches, but the answer sets until 2 a.m. the day you run the search. And then we also added the ability to retrieve those activities for an additional 29 days. Sure.
Does it tell how long you spend on a particular search?
It does indeed.
So that if I search, got some results, started browsing through those results, and lost track of time and kept working on it, it would say, oh my God.
I spent 9 minutes and 56 seconds in that particular research session. Absolutely. You're welcome. Yes? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Actually, no, you would have to rerun it. But the reason why it says 0 here is because it's in today. If it was archived, that link would be hot, and I could go out and rerun it and get a new answer set. Yep. We're doing on time. We're good. Copy with Cite. Copy with Cite is an enhancement that we've added and also just recently updated a few days ago, which allows you to highlight a section of a LexisNexis document and to be able to essentially allow you to have a hypertext link into your word processing document. You're also able to add that reference of where it came from, and you can also make it flat text or hypertext. And also one other additional enhancement is that our Copy with Cite feature is not only available in legal authority that have legal citations, but you're also able to do it in news materials as well. Again, there's no standardized citation format necessarily for news, but it will allow you to hypertext link, go back into Lexis where that particular newspaper article referred you to. I will show you how to do that real quickly there is interest. Okay, if you're for instance, if you're a student or if you're doing some research, it might be best if I showed you a demonstration of what I'm talking about, and if you have questions then I'll try to clear it up. Let's say we'll do this run the same search again. Again, I'm just doing this. This is not going to impact the answer one bit. But if I were to go into the full text of this decision, and let's say I'm writing a brief on a particular topic, and I come across a pertinent aspect of a case that, let's say, court of its own initiative has the right to try advisory juror where claim is not triable by right, blah, 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 period. And I use blah, blah, blah with the utmost respect. What I can do is now go up here, click copy with Cite. What it's going to do is actually give me the text that I typed or I actually highlighted. So it's essentially allowing me to essentially take this, copy it to a clipboard. I could then go over to a Word document. Paste it, and this link is actually hot. And it will actually, if I'm signed on to Lexis, it will actually take me back into the actual Lexis. Now, it looks obviously would have to ask me to be authenticated once again, etc. But you can actually make that link hot. What that does is essentially kind of brings your case to life, so to speak, so that as you're working on it, you can actually go back in, retrieve documents, make them hot, or make them flat text as well. So for instance, if you wanted to submit a particular document to a court, and they're not going to obviously want a hypertext link in that particular document that you're retrieving or submitting electronically, you can make that flat text as well, so it would not be hot.
So how long, my experience is that after, if I move from one document to another, I have to sign in all of
On Lexis, I don't have that does not necessarily happen. I think we do have a timeout of something like 15 minutes, so that if you do not touch your keyboard within a LexisNexis session within 15 minutes, it will sign you off. But if you go to one document to another document,
If you keep working, it doesn't make you do that
no.
after a certain period.
After 15 minutes, if you're continually active in a research session, it should not ask you to re-sign or re-authenticate.
That it was when I stopped, or where I spent 15 minutes and just thinking about what I might do with it or stuff. But if the time passes, you have to
Re-authenticate?
you're going to have to. If I do that today, and I just go back and work on that document tomorrow, and I say, well, it would be helpful to read that case for my text. I'm going to have to sign in.
You will. Yes, you will. But the copy with Cite feature, again, just the highlights of that, they're able to be hypertext link or flat text, and also not only does it have to be in legal authority, but it can also be in news materials as well. And again, that is an exclusive availability of our copy with Cite feature.
Feature of Lexis,
Uh-huh.
but if I were to use it,
Most definitely. It is indeed.
I haven't had occasion to try it.
Yes, it is. Shepard's batch printing, another of the 6 enhancements I want to talk about. Obviously, hopefully people are aware of Shepard's and the enhancements that we've added, Shepard's summary being one, navigation features being another. We've also had some customer requests that instead of me having to go into every single case that's in a citing or every single citing reference within a Shepard's report, retrieving that case singly and having to print out that particular case, we have now essentially the ability now to print, download, email, or fax a full text of selected all citing references in a Shepard's report. So this is something that customers have asked us to do. We've listened and we've provided that capability. So if I were to go and Shepardize this case, and I come and I get my Shepard's report. Obviously, the Shepard summary is still there, just as it has been for over a year. But you'll notice now that you'll see checkboxes that are available, 1 through 3, for instance. Let's say 4 and 5, 6 and 7. Let's say, for instance, I was, for whatever reason, interested in the 5th case, the 7th case, the 8th case. I could then go back and print, and you actually download, print, fax, email, any or all of those. If I were to go ahead and say I wanted to print these, what it's actually going to be allowing me to do is do a number of things all at once. On the right-hand side, you'll see print my current Shepard's report. That's defaulted all the time. It will print the Shepard's report with just the citing references without the full text of those citing references, just like if you were to print it regularly. But we also have the ability to print the full text of the current citation or the citation that you actually entered in, the cited case. And then we also have the ability, and this is what's also linked here because I clicked those 3 different boxes, the ability to print selected documents also as well. One thing that I want to point out to you is also some of these print enhancements that I'll talk about in a session tomorrow, but we also have the ability to essentially basically manipulate the answer set or manipulate the way you actually want to print something. And again, this capability that I mentioned before, 7, 8, and 9 in this case, can be downloaded, just like I had as printed. Could be faxed. This is if it is, it's just indicating where it needs to go. Or it could be emailed. Again, defaulting to email my current report, and if we were to select additional boxes, that would also be checked. This brings me to the emails and attachment feature that I wanted to talk about. If you've ever received or retrieved and gotten an email with, like, for instance, I don't know if you're running any eclipses at this point, essentially automatic searches that are generated by Lexis and are delivered to you in your inbox. It would sometimes just, in the past, just say Lexis job, blah, 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 blah. You wouldn't necessarily know what it meant. If you only had one eclipse, you probably know that that's my eclipse that's coming in. What we've done is we've added some capability to our emails and attachment feature by ability to send to more than one recipient. You can send it up to 3 recipients. We also have the ability to actually add in a subject line so that for the ray, you can actually put in what this particular research session or what this particular document is germane to. And you can also add essentially a brief note prior to the attachment. And then again, picking, in this case, I would be sending via email a Shepard's report, but I could also send an entire research session. I could send a document. I could send a screenshot. I could send a copy with Cite. I could send a head note. I could send anything on Lexis via email as an attachment, with the added enhancements of the ability to add it to multiple designees, up to 3, and having the capability to putting a subject line, also adding a brief note, and again, picking and choosing the way I want to download or actually email that to the customer or to the individual. A couple of things, too, I didn't just point it out just for sake of it, but also we can, not only will the attachment formats, you can obviously default and put it into Word, but you also have the ability to use WordPerfect. You can also have it as an attachment in PDF, RTF, or just plain text, TXT. So it will support multiple file formats, not just the word processor that you may happen to be using.
What happens with formatting in inline text? Normally when you use it as an attachment, it comes.
It will as well.
But will it keep that format?
Not in the inline text, not if you were to copy and paste and blow it in there, but if you were to use the emails and attachment functionality, and if, for instance, you downloaded it in Word and it was a case, and if you were to print that case off on a printer, it would be in dual column print. It would still be, if you were to use the attachment, double-clicked on that attachment, it would still look as if it were dual column.
Yeah, I understand that.
Okay.
What I'm asking is, does it then stay if you use the inline text rather than the attachment?
It does not.
It does not.
No. And that's the benefit, I guess, the benefit of using the emails and attachment, because it will keep that formatting for you. Focus bar. This is something that just released on June 12th, And what this does, hopefully everyone in here is familiar with the focus feature on LexisNexis. What focus does, it allows you to essentially do a search within a search with no cost associated with that. One thing that when I was a rep I used to emphasize to customers was if I'm searching in an area of law, I would want to try to get the largest answer set I possibly could, the most bang for my buck, so to speak, and then use the focus feature to essentially whittle away or keep chipping away and focusing in on the issue that I'm interested in. What we've done is we've been able to automatically display the focus capability on a bar that is stationary at the top of a case and is easily accessible. You can focus within selected documents or the entire answer set. And you also have the ability to keep that link or the old focus, Focus Classic, so to speak, available as well, so that you can also hide and show the focus bar. And again, as with all the things that we've talked about, I think it's best if I explain it with a search. If I were to go in, and let's go in, we'll do that same search. And this time I will go in and I will put retrieving 100 documents, but I know that this particular, I'm specifically interested in the concept of front pay within an age discrimination remedies issue. If you remember Lexis prior to the 12th, it probably looked like this, where you had the ability to go in and focus and click focus, and it would bring you to a whole separate screen where you would then enter in your focus terms, in this case, front pay. And essentially now it's essentially doing a new search within those 100 cases, but there's no additional charge if I was in the commercial markets for that. Now I've narrowed it down to 7. So I've essentially created an entire new answer set within my original answer set, but it's more germane to the issue that I'm interested in. And I would have to go to the original or to a separate screen to actually enter in my focus terms. But now, if you'll notice, Lexis now is defaulted where if the focus bar and the focus capability is automatically displayed at the browse screen of any answer set. So now there's no need to actually have to go to a separate screen unless you're used to that particular behavior and want to continue to do that. But for instance, if I were to just be interested in putting front pay here, and I can search within all documents, or if I wanted to select documents, I could obviously select this one, the previous document, the subsequent documents, any of the other documents in this answer set. I could simply then click Go. And you'll notice we should come up again with 7 cases. Oh, I did. Thank you very much. Yeah, let's try it again. Front pace, and then we have the 7 cases. Essentially, all that this enhancement did was it was an ease of use enhancement that we've added that customers had requested. Instead of having to go into what we're calling focus options, which is essentially that screen and going to a separate screen and having to run your answer set or your new focus search, we're able to essentially just go right now and do it right from the answer set screen itself, from the browse screen. So it saves a couple of clicks, and it actually, believe it or not, saves some time, and it makes the ability to focus or the ability to do a new search, an entire new search within an original answer set much more easy. Questions? Comments? Want to see something else?
I have a question, because you mentioned a couple of about the customer requests. I'm just curious about that process that you all do to decide which enhancements you're actually going to work on of the ones.
Yeah, that's a good question. We prioritize and we implement product enhancements based on a lot of criteria. One, of course, is customer requests, whether those requests come from conversations with the customer and their representative, and that gets sent in. We also have a feedback button on Lexis where people can feedback and provide suggestions. We also do a vast amount of customer research, both focus groups and individual focus research. We also obviously have to respond to competitive issues. We have a very rigorous product development. We have a product development portfolio process that creates not only product concepts, but we also have a very rigorous product development process. It's called a stage gate process. And essentially, it is something that allows us. We have, at any one time, Lexis right now, for instance, has over 300 different product enhancements in flight for all different aspects, both for the research system, for Shepards, for ease of use enhancements, user interface type of changes, some beyond legal research capabilities that we have with our newly acquired companies, trying to embed those into our products. So we have product development is continually something that is continually done. But when it's a fresh or brand new idea or an enhancement to something that's already there, we get that from a lot of different sources. Obviously customers, they're the ones that keep the lights on, so we listen to them the most. But we also have to provide certain particular functionalities for different markets that may not necessarily be applicable to other markets. An example of that might be the case brief feature for law students. That's not something that's available in the commercial markets because generally they're going to want the full text of the case and they don't want the snapshot with just the case summaries and the head notes. They're going to want the full text. So that's just a display feature that's something that was specifically generated for law schools. Any other questions? Comments? Certainly. Mm-hmm.
Some databases or sources not being available in different markets.
Mm-hmm.
It would seem like that would just be more trouble for you to say all the same, because a lot of stuff that students aren't even.
Yeah, but because the data is electronic, it's not that difficult to do. And then also there are royalty issues. There are subscription-based issues, specific in the commercial markets, where we have ways in which you can pay for only the certain information that you're going to want to use, some things that may be superfluous to what you want. So we have a very flexible, content distribution channel. So it as far as administratively, sure, if we had one take it or leave it, kind of an all-you-can-eat buffet, that would be great. But we want to be able to be responsive to what customers want, and we're able to do that. We're able to parcel certain content, certain authority into different pieces.
So some of your have a lot to do with not allowing
Certainly.
law school access. They only want to go out
To pay because they're not going to get royalties in some respects. Yep. Anything else? Anybody else have? Going once.
We have a few minutes.
We do. Sure. Do you want to see it privately or do you want to see it up on the screen?
Well, I don't care. It depends.
If you guys don't want to see the insurance database, by all means, please enjoy the sunny day here in, where are we? No, I'm kidding. Seattle. You're more than welcome. Thank you for your attention. Hope you found that to be interesting and at least something you could utilize. Good. Anything specific that you're interested in seeing?
HO3.
Which is?
It's one of the standard. I understand your insurance database has
HO3?
Yeah, by insurance services.
So you don't want to see Search Advisor. You want to see our actual.
I want to know how to search in the database, the insurance database.
Got it.
Am I not hitting your expertise?
I don't have much of an expertise in anything, so let me just suffice it by saying that.
One of those databases that's not.
Oh, I see. And this is,
I don't know what it's called.
well, that's going to be, find a source. So it's not a source.
All insurance contracts?
Boy, I don't know. Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, this is an internal ID, so I have things that
Insurance policy forms, right there.
here.
Yeah, I think that's
Oh, what this will bring up a table of contents.
I can't see the screen. Search ISO, policy forms, line of business, we don't want that. We want, line of business, we do.
Well, there's one that says form numbers.
Let's use form numbers.
You know what?
3. It's capital A, I don't know if it is.
It won't matter.
Capital O hyphen 3. It shows side by side.
430.
There's 435.
Yes.
That's it. Homeowner special form. Okay, this is one that's. Okay, so that's goes 91. See the date, form number 91. The 00 is 2091.
01, 96, 2000, 03.
Yeah.
Is this the one you want? That's in Oregon, though.
I'm looking for one that's 84.
1984?
Yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and use the focus bar.
Okay.
Let's do this. Let's do 1984 or 84.
Yeah, I think it's 84.
There's 11 of them.
Okay.
If I were to put a site list of those together for you.
Goody.
But you can't see any more. Anything else? No.
Water pump, property remediation.
When 84, is there a subject that you're interested in? Not necessarily a date?
It's called the cooperation clause, or the non-cooperation clause, but it doesn't have the word non-cooperation in it.
Does-
As the non-cooperation clause,
But it doesn't have that in it?
but it doesn't have that in it.
Does it have cooperation in it?
It might.
Is the focus bar currently available?
It is. It just was launched on the 12th.
I've used Lexis since then, but
There's, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Potential basis of pen. This is New Jersey. Fine. Oh, great. Now, is that all? What about New York? What about Oregon? What about what if we wanted all states?
I'm searching within all 435. So,
435 what?
well, the original OS 3s or whatever they were,
HO3?
or HO3. And
Had a state up, wasn't it Oregon?
there was Oregon, but that was when we used 84. We didn't use cooperation. But if I go into one of these,
Yeah, let's go and see what happens. Cooperation.
yep, and there's also an additional charge for this. I need to stop, but
Oh, you need to stop.
yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I think I got a letter from Lexis saying that it's going to be kind of a new interface.
There's a new law school homepage that's launching on July 1st. And if you go to the table, we have demonstrations of that going on as well. It's just not in production yet.
Okay.
Yep. I can go through and we can do this if you want. I mean, I'll get it off the screen. You can come over here unless you can see better that way. If there's any other questions you have for me, let me know, okay? You're welcome. Thanks for coming.
Text report, there's an additional charge for the PDF. What if we don't want the PDF, but we just want the full text report? Or does it mean the full text?
The full text report is an additional charge. So I'll bring it up.
Okay. So you're not going to get
No. There it is.
1903, the 2003 version.
Mm-hmm.
Enhancements. This I'm beginning to remember. I told you I had a few minutes
Yeah.
to look at it,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't have long enough to look at it to figure out what all this means.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Uh-huh.
to know how to read this. What happens if we scroll down? How many pages are in this report?
4.
4.
1 of 4.
Yeah, let's see if we can find the cooperation clause. Oh, you know what this is? Hey. Sorry, excuse me to say hey. Go back up to the top. This is not the HO3 form. It isn't.
This is HO 120. Mm-hmm.
So somehow or other we got into the special provisions.
So you don't need this?
We don't need this, no. What were we looking for? We got special provisions in New Jersey. When it says there's going to be a special charge, what are we talking about?